Welcome to the Millcreek Government Channel. I'm Judy Zelina, and today, viewers, I wanted to talk a little bit about Erie weather. Face it, we live in Erie, so we are subject to some pretty volatile storms. How do we handle these storms? I think the number one way would be to be prepared. And here to help us get prepared and to be storm ready, we have Matt Exley, and Matt is Millcreek Township's Emergency Management Coordinator and also the Fire Code official.
Morning, Judy.
Good morning. It's so good to have you back on the show.
Thanks for having me.
What we're going to talk about today, Matt and I there's so many subjects we could really be talking about, right, Matt?
Absolutely.
But I think right now, we're hitting the spring, summer, and then even into fall season, we get some big storms, don't we?
We do, and this is actually a pretty important year for us. This is the 30th anniversary of the May 31st, 1985 tornadoes that came through Erie County and really changed a lot of lives. And it was one of the first meteorological events that changed Erieites' perspective on the weather. We always thought that it could never happen to us, and
You're
that
right.
day changed it.
Exactly. We did think that. What we're going to talk about today, it's a program. It is called Storm Ready. How to become storm ready. Mm-hmm. First off, I'm very proud to say Millcreek is storm ready, correct?
It is. We attained the certification last April, and we continue to work at honing our program as we move through. We're required to recertify every 3 years, so it's a constant process.
Okay, that sounds great that we're storm ready, but tell our viewers what really it consists of the Storm Ready program.
Sure. Basically, the Storm Ready program is a grassroots national program that was developed by the National Weather Service and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association. And basically it is a program that allows communities to take a look at their storm plans, figure out what kind of things we need to get better at, what kind of things we're doing right in order to make sure that our communities are prepared in the event that this severe weather happens.
Okay, how is this going to benefit my community?
Well, what it has done is it's taken us and made us take a real close look at our storm plans and procedures. So from everything from how do we recover from storms to how do we prepare for it, even down to the point of we have scripts for our dispatchers of if severe weather's coming in, who do they notify? How do the 250,000 people on a July 4th weekend at Presque Isle, how are they notified that there's severe weather incoming? So it's really, it forces us to take a closer look at our existing plans and develop new ones if needed.
Okay, what did we as Millcreek Township, what did we have to do to become storm ready?
So there's a number of things that we have to do, and in Millcreek Township's case, we were very fortunate because we had a lot of those already done. One of the things we had to do was develop or establish a 24-hour warning point, which we have with our police dispatch center. We have to have more than one way to receive alerts and alarms, and we have about 7, so we're ahead of the game ball, ahead of the curve there. We also have to be able to monitor conditions locally. So we have weather stations set up across the township that we can monitor conditions. You may or may not be aware that sometimes being so far away, the Doppler radar with Cleveland doesn't necessarily pick up stuff in our area. So we've developed relationships with the television stations in the area, WJT, who has their own radar, to be able to talk to their meteorologists and be able to get local stuff as well.
So you're right on top of everything exactly as it's happening.
Right, exactly. In addition to that, we develop ways to talk back to the National Weather Service because they're the ones who issue the watches and warnings, and they need our eyes on the ground. So we have many different ways of being able to talk back to them and let them know what's going on in our community. And finally, we had to develop community education, which today is a part of, letting people know about the Storm Ready program, and not only how the township is preparing for Storm Ready, but how you as a citizen can prepare to be storm ready as well.
And I think that's important because you have to be responsible for yourself. Mm-hmm. You can't expect the township has different things in place is what I'm understanding, but I still have to say, Judy, you got to be prepared for a storm too should it happen. You can't expect the township to give you a go bag or things like that, right?
Exactly. We recommend for citizens, and nowadays it's becoming even longer, we recommend for citizens and residents in the community have a 3-day supply. Be ready to be on your own and self-sufficient for 3 days, because if we do have another tornado disaster like we had in Albion, it may be several days before somebody can get to you and be able to provide you with those resources. So we want people to be self-sufficient. Right. We kind of tell them to be your own hero. While the fire, EMS, police, the government, emergency management, we're all cooperating on an everyday basis to be able to keep our communities safe. In the end, you have to prepare your family as well, and that's a responsibility that each resident has.
Okay, I did want to point that out too. We're talking really an overview of Millcreek Township, but I did want to remind people that you do have to take care of you and your family.
Sure, and we have a lot of information available at the Township too, if anybody's curious as to what they need to put into their kits or anything like that. We have free information at the Township available for that as well.
And I am here to tell you, Matt has all kinds of information on any subject when it comes to emergency management or even fire safety. Right in our hallway, if Matt happens to be out doing inspections, right in the hallway he has a whole rack of brochures and information, tons of stuff.
Absolutely, it's all there for the community's information.
Okay, let's get back to getting storm ready. Okay, how long does it take for a community to become storm ready?
The minimum that they recommend is to start 6 months or so beforehand. In our case, we really wanted to take a real good look into it, and even though we had many of the components of the Storm Ready program already done, it took us about a year of changing things and making sure that our plans were ready to go and just right. So, and again, even though we became Storm Ready last April, we continue to hone those plans as well as we move through.
Okay. Now, how would a community know if they're storm ready? I know because, of course, you and I have offices right next door, and also you have it on your window that we are storm ready, and we've been talking about this. An average resident, how are they going to know if their community is storm ready?
Well, the National Weather Service does have a website that you can go to check your community. We encourage people to encourage their communities to become storm ready. Contact your local emergency management office, contact your local municipality. In Pennsylvania, every municipality must have an emergency management coordinator appointed. So the county has one, but every municipality must have an emergency management coordinator as well. So contact them, encourage them to become storm ready. There's the process that you go through, but in the end, it makes a safer community as well. And then these educational pieces are part of what we have to do as well, get people to understand what the program is. And it's a big deal to become storm ready. People should take comfort in knowing that the township officials have kind of taken that extra step to keep the community safe.
Okay. Now, you said there's a time limit on it. Now, we are deemed storm ready. How long does that last before do I have to get recertified or renew?
Right. As a township, to be able to be certified as storm ready, we have to recertify every 3 years. Okay. So again, it's a constant process. When 3 years are up in 2017, because we were given it last year, the National Weather Service will come back in and go through all of our paperwork again, make sure that we're doing what we said we were going to do, and they'll then recertify us for another 3 years. So every 3 years we're reevaluated.
Okay. Matt, is there a cost involved in this?
For the township, in our case, there really wasn't. For municipalities that are just becoming storm ready, sometimes there's a little bit of a cost in the fact that you have to have weather radios, for example, and minor things like that, equipment purchases that you have to have for those. But in Millcreek Township's case, again, we were kind of ahead of the curve already. So, it really didn't cost very much for the township to become storm ready. And the cost benefit was huge.
Well, the cost benefit is huge to keeping your residents and your community safe. I know, Matt, you're always looking for different ways to implement different safety measures.
Sure.
I thank you. I do, because I learn a lot from this guy. Viewers, if you have any questions too, I do want to tell you, stop in and see him at the Millcreek Municipal Building in his office. He always, no matter how busy Matt is, he always will take the time and talk to residents, and they appreciate that.
Well, community education is a big part of our job. I consider my job probably, 80 to 90% public relations, really. It's just getting the message out there, because once they've left our office or they've left our building, it's really up to them to continue that safety culture, if you will. So if we can provide a good input on that, that helps us in the end.
I know when I was looking over some of the literature about being storm ready, there's different guidelines you have to follow to become storm ready. Okay, and I know one of them, if you can embellish and explain to our viewers a little bit of what each one means. Like one of them is the Communications and Coordination Center. What does that involve?
So basically what we've done is we've combined, we have our Millcreek Police Dispatch and we have Erie County 911. Erie County 911 dispatches our fire departments and emergency medical services. Millcreek Police dispatches their own police departments. So we have developed protocols with them that in the event that we have severe weather coming into place, each place knows what their piece of the puzzle is and how they're going to work together to work on that. So we combine those two communication centers along with our emergency operations center that we ramp up when we have a disaster, and things flow back and forth between those three to be able to communicate.
Okay, now, is this running 24/7?
Two of the pieces of the puzzle are.
Okay, which ones are?
We have the police department dispatches 24/7, and of course the 911 center is 24/7.
Okay.
They're kind of what we like to call our watch desks, if they will. I can't be up 24 hours a day, so we have them keeping an eye on things and notifying us if something's coming in. If we notice that something's coming in, or we've had a sudden disaster, then we ramp up our emergency operations center. And what that does is support the units in the field and support those two dispatch agencies to take some of the burden off of them and let us kind of look at the big picture, if you will.
Okay, tell me about an emergency operations center. What's involved with that?
Basically, we get everyone who needs to make decisions together.
Okay.
And we basically take policy or political objectives for how we're going to handle this disaster, and the Emergency Operations Center translates that into how we're going to get that objective done. And then we hand that translation down off to the field units, or the boots on the ground, which are the most important part of the process.
Yes.
So we take what we need to get done and we translate that into how we're going to do it and give that down to the field units to get it done.
I remember years ago when I think they had set something up in the municipal building. I can't remember for what storm it was.
It might have been Hurricane Sandy.
It was. That's what it was. And I was involved because of the public relations and the communication with the media. Is what my place was. But there was someone for every point and in every place.
Exactly. Everybody has a job, and a lot of our people are cross-trained. So if you may not be able to make it in because your road is closed due to trees down, but we always have somebody who can step into your spot.
Right.
So everybody is cross-trained within that area and able to do each other's jobs. And we have representatives from the streets department, building maintenance, maybe the police department, even PennDOT, places like that as well. And every community that's affected stands one of those up, or is supposed to. So we communicate with the county's Emergency Operations Center. One of the important things to point out, and one of the reasons why we say to be self-sufficient for 72 hours, is because if you remember back during Hurricane Katrina, there was stuff all over the news about how FEMA wasn't coming in to rescue everybody and all this kind of stuff.
Yes.
And the important part to point out is that the way that our Commonwealth works is that the upper level of government cannot come in until the lower level of government asks for help. So the state can have all the resources that they want, and they can be sitting right on the edge of Millcreek Township. But unless I, as the emergency management coordinator, or our elected officials say, hey, I need some help here, they can't just come in and take over.
I didn't know that.
So I have to ask for help from the county, and then if the county's overwhelmed, then the county asks for help from the state. If the state resources can't handle it, then they ask for help from the federal government.
So that's how that works. There's actually a step system involved.
Pretty much, yep, exactly.
I didn't realize that. I wanted to ask you, I've been reading in here local warning systems. What local warning systems do we have here in Millcreek Township?
Well, we have a couple in place and we have a couple under development. The ones that we have in place right now are, there's several through the county 911 center and the county emergency management. And they are things like you've seen before on television. The emergency alert system, the little scrolling line that comes across the bottom of your television set and lets you know about severe weather. We also have a reverse 911 system in the county that if it's a very small event, we can call people's phones and let them know what's going on. We also have a Nixle system in Millcreek Township. It's free for the township and free for the community. You can just go to nixle.com and sign up. And basically what it allows us to do is send out messages to the community to keep them in the loop and let them know what's going on. A great example is the other day we had a water main break at 26th and Peninsula, and traffic was a mess.
Right.
So we sent out a Nixle message to our subscribers that let them know to avoid that area, and it helped with traffic congestion and kept a lot of people from getting stuck in all that traffic. So kind of keeps them up to date on that. Some of the things we're working on is we're working on a project with the state right now to allow us access to the wireless emergency alerts, which you may have seen come over your cell phone every once in a while. That allows us to be able to notify people specifically, not only in the township, but on Presque Isle as well. The problem with the Nixle system is if you have somebody coming in from Michigan to enjoy our peninsula, they're not going to have signed up for our system.
Okay.
So this allows us to, no matter where they're from,
Right.
send them a message and let them know that there's an emergency in that specific area. In addition to that, we're working with several private agencies and a couple other governments to put in, if you remember from way back when we used to have fire sirens on all of the buildings. We're not going to go back to those days because many people didn't like the fire siren blowing at all hours of the night, but there was a use for them, and that was for severe weather. So we're looking at putting in a couple additional sirens in areas where we have a lot of outdoor events because they're meant to be heard outdoors, and they'll only go off for weather emergencies, tornado, maybe if there's a chemical emergency that we need people to pay attention to their radios, switch to the radio, switch to their television set, and find out what's going on and what to do.
So if they would hear that alarm, they would turn on their TV.
Right. Basically what we do in pretty much anywhere in the
Or
county.
even they can get on their phone.
They could get on their phone, they could get in any sort of media device that they have. But we get the message out to the media, and then when we set off those sirens, we encourage people to take shelter and then look into whatever media, social media, traditional media, and find out further instructions from us.
Okay. What we've been talking about here with the phones and the different warning signals, is that what's covered under the National Weather Service warning reception area?
It is a little bit. Basically, what that section is not only how we get the message out, but how we get the message to. We monitor the National Weather Service in many different ways. I have a chat program on my computer in my office that I can literally chat back and forth between a meteorologist over in Cleveland anytime I want. The police department has 3 or 4 different ways of receiving warnings from them. And then one thing that we've also done is in all of our schools in the township, we all have National Weather Service weather alert radios in them. So even before I can get the message out, they're getting the message directly from the National Weather Service to allow our kids to take safe shelter.
Okay. Now, you're going to make me say this word, aren't you?
I am. We practiced this word.
Hydrometeorological
Very good.
monitoring.
Yes.
Big word. What's it mean?
It is. Basically, it means that that we figure out and we monitor what's going on in the atmosphere. So whether that be through our weather radar systems or our cooperation with the local media to be able to get that information into us, we keep an eye on what's going on. So that way we can monitor not only things like tornadoes, but we can monitor flash flooding, for example. And we know whether we have to hook up special pumps, or whether we need to open up gates on retention basins, for example. And we continue to modify those as well. We try to add additional things. We're looking at adding several weather stations across the township so that not only we can gather that rain data information, but they'll be available to the public as well. That if you want to know how much rain Bell Valley is getting, you can go online and find out exactly what's going on in your neighborhood.
Really?
Yeah.
You're implementing all this?
We're in the process. It's in the very initial design stages right now, but for a relatively low cost, we're going to be able to, hopefully over the next year or so, be able to get these in. And it helps not only my department, but departments like engineering, who has to worry about stormwater management, the water department and the sewer department that have to worry about how much of that water is coming into their systems as well, so that they can prepare their systems too.
Okay, another one of their guidelines is warning dissemination.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
That's what we talked about with the social media and
Okay.
with all of those warning systems. We do a lot with social media now. We have Twitter, Instagram, Facebook accounts, and a lot of people get their information from that. So I have it on my tablet in my response vehicle and on my phone, and our deputies have it. And constantly, if we have an incident going on, we're getting information out over those social media accounts right directly from the scene, because our view is that the more people know, the better decisions they can make. So we try to get as much information out as we can.
Okay, and this is the one that I think really, affects all of us, is the community preparedness.
It is. This is the very basis of everything that we do. And that's just making sure everybody's prepared. Whether it's talks like this, visits to a senior fair that we go to, even just people coming into our office and us talking about different things to them. Becoming prepared, no matter whether it's for a weather emergency, a fire emergency, it really helps. And you don't have to do a ton of things to do it. On our last show, we mentioned that one of the things that my family did, we don't have a ton of money to go out and buy pre-made disaster kits or anything like that. Basically what we did was every time we go to the store, we pick up an extra canned good item and we put it in our disaster kit. And over the course of 6 months, we've developed a pretty decent kit to be able to have to keep our family safe. We go into schools. Any community organization that wants us to come talk to them about severe weather, all I have to do is call the Township building, and we provide those talks for free as well.
I noticed too that I see advertised Skywarn. There's programs I see down probably at Blasco Library, Skywarn. It's free to the public. What are you going to talk about at a Skywarn program?
Basically what the National Weather Service does is, again, remember when we talked about how the radar doesn't necessarily always reach what's going on here?
Right, correct.
They need what they call ground truth. So they need people that are on the ground to let them know, is what they're seeing on the radar in Cleveland correct? So they have this class. It's once a year, typically in the spring before severe weather season. They do hold some online ones, so if you're still interested, you can contact us and we can try to get you a time for those. But basically they come in and they teach you about all sorts of weather phenomena, severe weather, things like that, what to look for and what to report. And they register you as a Skywarn observer. We have a lot of ham radio folks that do it, and that's great because they can talk directly back to them. But even if you're not a ham radio person, there's an 800 number that you can call and report hail or severe flooding, anything like that. And that just helps increase that warning for our community.
Okay. And then, of course, administrative. The administrative part of this whole program is very important.
The fun part, right?
You're there. You're under administrative.
The paperwork part, exactly. We've developed a severe weather plan. We've incorporated that into our emergency operations plan for the township.
Right.
And we've even gone further to develop plans like debris management. What do we do with all the debris that comes after a storm? We're very fortunate in the township to have a facility like Millcreek Recycling Center where we can use some of that stuff. But Millcreek will be looked upon as a resource if we have a disaster in the community. So we want to be prepared for those kind of things as well.
I know we have opened Mill Fair many times when we have had storms, whether it be ice storms, whether it be flooding, to get rid of the debris, even if we happen to be closed, if it's in the winter season that we're closed. So we try and work with any type of disaster or anything that might be coming up at Mill Fair. So you're right, Millcreek is lucky on that.
Right, and one of the things that many people don't know is the easy part is opening the gates and getting that debris in there. The hard part is all that administrative and that paperwork part. For example, if we keep we have to keep proper documentation on damages across the area, what kind of stuff is being brought into the center, even down to the point of how many man hours we're using to load and unload those trucks that are coming into the center. Because in the end, all of that stuff adds up and helps go towards our state declarations or presidential declarations of assistance. So if we don't keep track of those things, Millcreek is on the tab for everything. Whereas if we reach certain levels, we start to see some financial reimbursements coming through and things like that. So the paperwork and the administrative part is very important in order to keep it fiscally sound.
Well, we're glad to have you on board with all of this. I, for one, am very proud that Millcreek is storm ready. I know there's also some different websites. I think we'll put those on the screen too,
Sure.
that the people can, if they want a little bit more research on this or if they have any other questions on it. But I mean, I'm so proud that we are storm ready. It's not an easy process. There are many things that had to be put into place. And I thank you, Matt, for making sure that all of this got into place and that we can proudly say that we are storm ready now.
And it really was a team effort. I mean, we have members, volunteers, employees that all came together to do this. So it took a lot of work and a lot of people to get it done.
Right. And I think wasn't I even in one of your classes one time?
I think you were.
I was.
Yep. I think I had to throw something at you to wake you up in the back.
No,
but.
I passed. I'm just telling you, I passed right now. No, really, really interesting subject because living in Erie, you know, it just seems weather anymore, Matt. You don't just have rain, you have a monsoon. You just don't have a little snowfall, it's a blizzard. Weather is extreme, and we have to be ready.
It is, and even in our, even in the state stuff, we have to now plan for climate change. Without arguing about what is causing climate change, we know that it's happening. Things are changing, and we're seeing things happen. So we've got to prepare for that as well.
Okay. Matt, thank you so much for joining us on the channel, letting us know about how to become storm ready. Viewers, really stop in and see Matt at the municipal building. He's got great information. Any questions you have, give him a call.
Absolutely, anytime.
I know.
Send us a message on our Facebook or Twitter as well. We monitor those too.
I was going to say, like him on Facebook. We have, what is it, Millcreek Emergency Management?
Yep, Millcreek Township Office of Emergency Management on Facebook.
Great information. He keeps you up to date, and if there's any warnings or even just safety issues that are happening in the township, he keeps you up to date.
Yeah, we really try to get that out to the community.
I know.
And engage them.
You do a great job.
Thank you.
Great to have you on board. Matt, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me again.
Viewers, again, if you have any questions, please give him a call. Stop in. He'll be glad to answer any questions or help you out. Viewers, thank you so much for tuning into the Millcreek Government Channel. And until next time, have a wonderful day.
You're watching the Millcreek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.